Hey howdy, welcome back to the shop. So today I want to take some time out to go over my most recent build here, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to say that this is an MG42, but this is actually a Yugoslavian copy of the MG42 known as the M53 Sarac. So I have been looking for one of these kits for a very long time to add to my collection of Yugoslavian small arms, and it was just by pure chance that a follower of the channel, thank you again CK, offered this one for sale to me. And what really stood out to me is that this kit is 100% numbers matching and is perfect reweld material. So the long shroud and then all of the receiver pieces that were torch cut were included with it, and you know, is basically the perfect kit for what I wanted. So when I decided to put this together, I wanted to do again a full reweld. And I wanted to utilize the BRP core internals that came with it. BRP is out of Georgia, and they specialize in semi-auto MG42 parts. And I mean, really, this is a rather simple build once you understand how the MG42 works. So let me take you in here a little bit closer and kind of show you some of the MG42 specific issues that I ran into. So when it comes to building a semi-auto MG42 platform, most of the things that you'll see online say that these are notorious for not wanting to feed at all, and they're also really notorious for being picky about the ammunition that they like. So taking a step back, you have to realize that this is a gun designed by somebody that never designed a gun before in their life, but they were intimately familiar with steel stamping. So with that in mind, it kind of gives you a better idea of how all these different pieces are supposed to function together as one machine. So in a regular firearm, you would think that the feed ramp is a machined surface on the end of the barrel or machined into the actual receiver. On the MG42, it is this spring-loaded piece right here that's called the pressure plate. This is essentially just a very heavy gauge stamping with a very strong spring behind it that acts as the feed ramp to guide the cartridge off the belt and into the chamber of the barrel. In my experience, when I first put this together, I had a very big issue where the gun was not wanting to feed at all, and when it did feed, it destroyed belts. Here's an example of a starter tab that it bent right here. So what was happening is that this pressure plate was holding the belt and the cartridge itself at the wrong angle for the bolt face to pick it up and out of the belt. So, with a very specific gauge that's available online, you can double check and make sure that the curvature of that pressure plate is correct. Just like that. So it turns out that after I had disassembled this top cover and I looked at it sideways like this mounting point back here was actually bent at an angle where it was causing the pressure plate to come up and over. And that was making the belt sit off at an angle, and it was trying to shove the belt and the cartridge down into the chamber instead of just the cartridge. So after straightening that pin out, straightening out the mounting point, and then making sure that the pressure plate followed the curvature that it was supposed to, the thing feeds perfectly now. Another thing you'll see online is that sometimes these are picky about the belts that they like. In my experience, ever since fixing this top cover, I can grab any belt out of inventory and it will run. Again, that is just my experience. That's not a rule, but it might be. I'm not sure. So again, staying down here on the receiver end of the firearm, a lot of things that you'll see online say no matter what, you have to replace your rails if you do a reweld, whatever. In my experience, again, this is just my experience, I didn't have to do any of that just because when you go to weld this up, as long as the rails are in line with each other and not, you know, railroad tracked all over the place, they will still guide the bolt and the bolt head where they need to go. There is no, at least in my experience, again, there was no need to replace the rails. The bolt still rides in there nice and straight. Another cool thing about this kit and the MG42 platform in general is that it originally came with this MG54 barrel, which is the Austrian copy of the MG3 / MG42. The only difference is that it's chambered in 308 or 7.62 NATO. And to do a caliber conversion on this, the only thing you need to do is get a 308 barrel and space out the feed tray, the original 8mm feed tray, so the 308, the shorter 308 cartridges will fit and feed correctly. But in this build, to keep it more period and Yugoslavian correct, I went out of my way to go and get a M53 barrel, which is chambered in an 8mm Mauser. So another thing you'll see online when it comes to building these semi-MG42s is that a lot of people have extreme difficulty getting these things to unlock, whether it be to clear them, to charge them, to load them, whatever. Here is a section of receiver that was saw cut, and you can see right where these two spots are for the trunnion to sit. And this is a two-piece trunnion, so this right side is the removable piece. But these two areas are built up with weld, and then they're machined back down to a very, very specific distance. Now, when I had built this center section up with weld and got everything aligned and squared up, I thought for sure that I had it set up perfectly. Well, I didn't. Turns out that even having this off as little by 2 degrees, at least as far as I could tell, by 2 degrees was enough to make the bolt bind when it was coming to unlock. So it went from taking almost all of my upper body strength to getting this thing to unlock to literally, you know, just what you would consider a normal amount. So if you're having trouble having the bolt bind up, just check to make sure that those two spots are parallel and even to each other. Now lastly, down here at the muzzle is the barrel bushing, which has the booster cone, and then the barrel bearing down inside here. The dimension for welding in this barrel bushing I could not find at the time of me building this, and I honestly still don't know where it is. If anybody has it, please put it in the comments for all the other builders. A little bit of an ad hoc measurement, I'm not sure if this is the correct way to do it, but it worked for me, was to put the barrel in, and then in between the barrel itself and the barrel bearing, which is down inside here, I just put a dime in between. Welded it up, took the barrel out, checked to make sure everything was nice and straight, and it seems to be functioning perfectly. There's no peening over on any of the little cuts on the barrel bearing, and well, you'll see here in a second that the gun runs flawlessly. So admittedly, I might have said flawlessly just a little bit too early. You can see in the footage that it's got trouble when it comes to getting the starter tab to come off of the main belt. I'm not really sure what that's caused by. It might just be the starter tab that I'm using. I'm really kind of at a loss because it only does it occasionally. But again, this thing does run and function, and I was almost absolutely sure that when I got to the range the other day that this was just going to be another one of those ZB30 projects. Take it to the range, it doesn't want to run, go back to the drawing board, try and figure out what you did wrong, but no. Loaded up the belt, and it runs. So, again, these are just some of the things that I ran into when I did my build. Your mileage more than likely will vary, but at least this can give you a few little pointers. I've already got my drum, and I've got the Yugo Gunner's tool kit, pouch, whatever you want to call it, on the way. I can't wait to actually take this thing back out again. I am absolutely in love with this build. So now I've got two functioning semi-auto Yugo LMGs to add to my collection. And yeah, it's been an absolutely fantastic year for building. And again, I want to thank everybody for tuning into the channel. All the different customers, all the different people I've talked to over the year. You are the guys that make this possible and make it worth it. So thanks for watching, happy building, and I'll see you in 2024.